The sun beat down on the Arizona Territory with a merciless, unforgiving heat, baking the very earth into cracked porcelain as Billy the Kid and his companions rode toward the forgotten settlement of Fort Redemption. It was the dusty heart of 1880, a time when the scent of gun smoke was as common as the smell of stale whiskey, and the name William H. Bonney was already etched deep into the harsh folklore of the frontier. They were 5 riders, a tight-knit band of outlaws known for their quick hands and their peculiar, brutal sense of honor. They came seeking nothing but rest and clean water, but Fort Redemption offered only a chilling quiet. The town, a cluster of sun-bleached wood and dusty adobe, was ruled by a profound stillness. Even the flapping of the faded sign above the general store seemed too loud, a deliberate violation of the silence. Billy, riding a weary but sturdy roan, dismounted in the center of the main street, the jingle of his spurs cutting sharply through the oppressive air. "This silence is a lie, Billy," Tom O'Folliard muttered, adjusting his worn Stetson and scanning the dark windows of the saloon. Tom, Billy's loyal right hand, had a sixth sense for trouble. "The air's too heavy. Feels like someone just finished digging a fresh hole." "Hold steady, boys. This town's got a sheriff, and he's wearing that silence like a badge," Billy responded, his eyes narrowed against the glare. The sheriff's office, built of dense, dark stone, dominated the street, the bars on its windows looking more like the teeth of a trap than a means of protection. Just then, a figure emerged from the shadows of the empty hotel lobby. She was a young woman, no older than 25, dressed in the severe black of mourning. Her hands clutched a worn Bible, and her face, pale and resolute, was fixed on Billy. This was Elara Vance, daughter of a recently deceased homesteader. "Mr. William Bonney? You are hard to find, but hard men are the only ones left who listen to truth out here." "I listen, ma'am, but I charge high for my ear. What's the trouble?" "My father, Caleb Vance, was murdered 3 days ago. By the law. By Sheriff Elias Kane's chief deputy, a brute they call Grizzly Maddox. My father had a prime patch of land, right where the new rail line survey runs. Kane wanted it, and Maddox rode out and put a bullet in him, called it resisting arrest." Elara's voice was steady, but the pain beneath it was raw and absolute. She spoke of her father's simple dream, of the decade he spent clearing the land, and of the cold, calculated cruelty of his execution. "Kane has the law twisted into a coiled rope, Mr. Bonney. The local judge is Kane's partner in cattle rustling. The deputy Maddox, he's bragging in the saloon about making the desert safe for progress. I've come to the only man left who still believes in a code that ain't written by the rich." Billy looked at the stone jail, then back at the woman's defiant, tearless eyes. He saw not just a simple murder, but the endless, crushing weight of corruption that bled the territory dry. The internal conflict, surviving versus satisfying the code, flared instantly. "I ain't a judge, ma'am. I'm a killer. If I ride against Kane, it's a war, not a parlor game. We're 4 men against his whole payrolled army. Then be the justice that the law forbids, Mr. Bonney. They stole his life, his land, and they stole his dignity. I need you to prove that even on this side of the Pecos, a man can't kill another man for dirt and get away clean." Billy tipped his hat low, his decision already made. The sheer audacity of the sheriff, turning the badge into a tool of cold murder, struck a deep, familiar chord of rage in the young outlaw. "Get out of this town, Elara Vance. Jose Chavez y Chavez will ride you to a safe house I know, north of the Gila River. Go now. Tell us everything you know first, but you be gone before the sun falls. We'll take the risk, but the witnesses don't get to stay." As Elara began recounting the positions and names of the sheriff's men, Doc Scurlock, pointed toward the church steeple across the street. A flicker of glass caught the light, the reflection of a sniper scope or binoculars. Billy, high ground, north side. They were watching her. They know she's been talking. They know she told us. Damn it. That sheriff's got eyes everywhere. He didn't just kill her father. He's got the whole town under surveillance. We're compromised, boys. We just walked straight into a noose. Get ready to ride. Kane knows the kid is in town, and the clock just started ticking. The small gang rode hard and fast, leaving the oppressive tension of Fort Redemption behind them. They pushed up into the Sierra Perdida foothills, finding sanctuary in a sheltered canyon known only to Jose. The landscape here was brutal, a tapestry of sharp rock, sun-scorched earth, and tenacious scrub brush. The smell of creosote and gunpowder, already on their clothes, mixed with the sharp, clean scent of high-altitude air. Huddled around a strategically sheltered campfire, Billy and his men dissected the problem, using a crude map drawn on a piece of leather. Ilara Vance's information, coupled with Jose's swift reconnaissance, painted a clear picture of Sheriff Elias Kane's power base. Kane has 2 operational centers, Doc Scurlock explained, pointing with a twig. The sheriff's office in town is the front, heavily fortified, 6 guards, but only 1 entrance. His true power is at the Iron Cross Ranch 5 miles east. It's built of stone, has an arsenal of new Winchester repeaters, and is guarded by at least a dozen men, mostly gunslingers from Texas. "And Maddox?" Tom O'Folliard asked, cleaning his rifle barrel with a rag. "The snake who shot the old man?" "Maddox and Kane's strategist Luther, the Fox Finn, are staying at the Iron Cross," Billy clarified, his voice intense. "They ride into town sporadically to collect protection money and keep the fear alive. They are arrogant and predictable. That is their weakness." Jose Chavez, returning from an early morning recon near the ranch, offered critical intel. The ranch has a hidden supply route on the north side, a dry wash where they bring in provisions. It's used by only 2 men, twice a week, at the same time, midday. The rest of the ranch is protected by high walls and barbed wire. Billy's plan crystallized, a calculated risk based on surprise and speed. They wouldn't attempt to raid the Iron Cross yet. The odds were too steep. They needed to thin the herd and gather evidence on the rail baron Ilara mentioned. "We hit the supply route, Doc. That brings Maddox and Finn out. We ambush the supply wagon, take the goods, and the 2 men guarding it. We use the element of surprise to capture them alive. We need to know who is signing Kane's paychecks and where the federal marshal is coming from." "And if they resist?" Charlie Boder asked, his deep-set eyes focused on the mission. Charlie never asked if a fight would happen, only how it would be won. "We disable them, Charlie. This isn't a massacre yet. This is intelligence gathering. We need to leave enough of them alive for Kane to sweat, but enough of them silenced to keep him guessing." Doc Scurlock frowned, running the numbers. "A midday ambush means the sun is against us, and we have to secure 2 prisoners and a wagon without leaving a trail. It's tight, Billy. We're still facing an enemy that outnumbers us 4 to 1 when the sheriff rides out. That's why we move fast, Doc. We hit them, grab the men in the wagon, and haul them back to this canyon. Jose, you ride ahead and prepare the ground. Tom, you and I handle the capture. Charlie, you provide the cover fire from the high ridge, ensuring no one escapes and no one sees us." The men spent the rest of the morning inspecting their gear. Billy checked his Colt 45 Peacemaker with ritualistic care, cleaning the cylinders until they gleamed. The silence of the canyon was punctuated only by the metallic clicks of reloading rifles and the rhythmic sharpening of knives. Every movement was efficient, every action rooted in the desperate need for preparation. As the sun reached its zenith, turning the canyon into a furnace, they mounted their horses. The ground was scalding, the air dry and suffocating, yet the men moved with a cold resolve. "They want to play the law, we'll play the judge," Billy said, pulling his bandana up over his nose and mouth to guard against the swirling dust. "Let's ride, boys. It's time to collect on a debt of blood." The small group rode out of the canyon, not with a rush, but with the steady, measured pace of men who knew precisely where they were going and exactly what they were about to face. They were riding toward the first blood of a war they didn't start, but were determined to finish. The ambush point was a choked, narrow ravine on the Iron Cross supply route, the air thick with the buzzing of flies and the scent of sage. The intense midday sun beat down, making the sand shimmer and distorting vision. Billy and Tom O'Folliard were concealed among the rocks, their bodies pressed flat against the rough stone, shielded by a dense wall of mesquite. Charlie Boder was positioned high above, his Winchester perfectly sighted on the ravine floor. The sound of wagon wheels dragging through the sand broke the silence. Two men rode ahead of the heavy wagon, their demeanor relaxed and arrogant. The arrogance of men who believed their authority was absolute. One was a hulking Texan named Stoney, and the other, Rattler, a lean, fast-looking gunman. They were bringing in supplies and a new batch of repeater rifle ammunition. As the wagon rumbled past Billy's position, Tom O'Folliard fired a single, deafening shot from his carbine. A shot aimed not at the men, but directly through the lead horse's foreleg. The animal screamed, collapsing instantly, bringing the wagon to a violent, jarring halt. Before Stoney and Rattler could even draw their sidearms, Billy and Tom vaulted from their cover, Colts drawn and aimed. The speed of the attack was paralyzing. "Hands high, boys!" Billy commanded, his voice sharp and demanding. "The only thing you're drawing is breath, and you might not have that for long." Rattler, true to his name, was fast. He managed to yank his Colt 45 out of leather. Before he could raise the muzzle, Charlie Boder's rifle cracked from the high ridge. The shot was so precise it didn't hit Rattler's hand, but shattered the wooden grip of his pistol, sending splinters and metal flying. Rattler roared, stunned, clutching his throbbing, useless hand. Stoney, the bigger man, wisely chose survival. He dropped his gun and slowly raised his hands, sweat plastering his hair to his temples. They quickly secured the two men, tying them roughly to the wheels of the immobilized wagon. Billy took the new ammunition boxes and began to inspect the contents of the wagon, finding not just supplies, but a sealed, official-looking document box. "We found the treasure, Tom. Looks like the sheriff was running a private bank." Billy turned his attention to Stoney, pressing the cold muzzle of his Colt just under the man's chin. The simple contact was enough to make Stoney shiver violently. "Your partner killed a homesteader named Vance. You were there, weren't you?" I just watched, boss. It was Maddox's job. He's the one who shot him." "And why did he shoot him? Tell me who's paying Kane, or you'll join poor Vance in the dirt." Under the fear of instant judgment, Stoney spilled the truth. "It's the Rio Grande Rail Consortium. They're paying Kane a fortune to clear the land. Vance was murdered to trigger a law and order crackdown. Kane wants the federal marshal to come in, but he's supposed to be ambushed by us first." "Ambushed, not killed, just held up, to make it look like the territory's too dangerous for the marshal to complete his mission. Kane is selling the marshal's presence to the rail baron, claiming he'll run him off. He wants to keep the power and the money for himself, not share it with the federal men." The twist was worse than simple corruption. Kane was double-crossing the rail baron's agents, attempting to consolidate absolute, unchallenged power in the territory. The marshal's presence was an integral part of Kane's trap. a way to legitimize his claim to absolute authority. Billy took the document box. He knew he couldn't leave Stoney and Rattler to ride back to the Iron Cross. The execution of justice had to be swift, but also leave an undeniable, fear-inducing message. Billy had Tom and Charlie deliver a brutal, painful lesson to the two men, leaving them beaten, tied, and stripped of their dignity next to the ruined wagon. They live, but they won't ride for a week, and they won't dare speak against us again. Leave the evidence here. Kane will find it and he'll know what it means. They took the new ammunition and the sealed document box, mounting up and riding hard back toward the canyon. They had secured the first blood and the intelligence, but they had also publicly declared war. "Kane's going to know we have his secrets," Doc observed as he read the address on the document box. "And he's going to set a full, vicious trap for us now. We just guaranteed the next fight is a duel to the death." Back in the temporary sanctuary of the High Canyon, the gang examined the captured document box. Inside, they found evidence confirming Stoney's tale, signed letters from the Rail Consortium detailing massive payments to Sheriff Kane to secure the right-of-way. More critically, they found detailed troop movements. The federal marshal, Jedediah Cross, was due to pass through the main canyon trail in less than 24 hours. "Kane's a greedy fool," Billy said, slamming the documents onto the rock table. "He wants to scare off the marshal and keep the whole pot. This information is our key. We use it to turn Kane's own strength against him. But first, we need to deal with his real muscle," Doc Scurlock interjected, holding up a crude, detailed map found in Rattler's pocket. "Look at this. It's a scouting map of this area. See this mark? Devil's Peak. Devil's Peak was the highest, most desolate point overlooking their current canyon refuge. The map indicated a small, temporary encampment. Kane didn't wait for us to hit him," Doc explained grimly. "He had his strategic man, Luther the Fox Finn, already in position. Finn knows the high ground. He's got snipers up there watching for our return. They're waiting for us to make a move. Then they'll pin us down here and cut off our retreat. It's a rat trap, boys." The realization settled over the camp with a chilling finality. Kane wasn't just defending. He was actively hunting. This wasn't a duel. It was a methodical extermination. The gang was completely exposed, their only exit now under the sight of a hidden enemy. "Jose, how many men on that peak?" Billy asked, his eyes blazing with cold fire. "At least 4, Capitan. Maybe 6. They will have long rifles, Winchesters. They'll wait until we move, then fire down on us. We can't fight our way out of a sniper trap," Doc added. "We have to take the peak, and we have to take it before dawn. That gives us darkness for cover and a clear shot at Kane's headquarters from the high ground when we move." Billy quickly devised the counterplan, focusing on silence and the element of surprise. He needed Finn and his snipers gone by sunrise. "Charlie, you're the best climber and the best shot. You and I move under the cover of the new moon. We take the long, silent way up the western face. No horses, no noise, only knives and skill. We eliminate their lookout and seize the peak. Tom, you and Doc stay here and act as bait. Keep the fire burning low, make them think we're asleep and confident. If they try anything before dawn, you deal with it." The ascent up Devil's Peak was brutal, a sheer climb over loose shale and granite. Billy and Charlie moved with practiced stealth, their boots finding purchase on impossible slopes. The night air was frigid, the silence broken only by the rasp of their own breathing and the occasional dislodged pebble tumbling into the abyss. They found the encampment just before the deepest part of the night, a small, wind-swept shelter, 4 men asleep, their Winchesters stacked neatly against a rock face. Luther, the Fox Finn, was one of them, sleeping with a pencil and a map, clutched in his hand, always calculating. Billy and Charlie moved in unison, silent and swift. The confrontation was short, vicious, and utterly without sound, a terrifying demonstration of frontier survival skills. They used their knives, ending the lives of Kane's strategists without a single shot fired. By the time the moon had completely set, Billy and Charlie stood victorious on Devil's Peak, securing the hidden weapons and taking Finn's maps. They looked down on the Iron Cross Ranch, a small, dark target miles away, and saw the entire deployment of Kane's remaining forces. They held the high ground, the tactical advantage. Kane played his hand too soon, Charlie whispered, looking at the distant ranch lights. He thought we were just thieves. We're worse than thieves, partner. We're here for justice, and we take the scenic route to get it. We've got the evidence, and we've got the high ground. Now we wait for the sun. The final reckoning starts at first light. The attack on the Iron Cross Ranch began not with a charge, but with a statement. As the sun's first rays touched the canyon rims, illuminating the sheriff's fortified headquarters, Billy and Charlie, still perched on Devil's Peak, unleashed the repeater rifles they had captured. They focused their fire, a disciplined, concentrated barrage aimed at the ranch's two main targets, the heavy steel gate and the water tower. The sound of the new Winchesters, loud and lethal, echoed through the quiet valley. The gate was peppered and weakened, and the water tower, Kane's only source of reliable water in the arid canyon, began to groan and leak from 100 tiny holes. Down below, Sheriff Elias Kane, hearing the devastating, accurate fire, realized his entire defensive strategy had failed. His snipers were gone, and the heavy firepower was now turned against him. He knew the kid had his secrets. They've got the high ground, Kane roared, his face mottled with rage and fear, scrambling to arm his remaining 6 gunmen. Get those horses ready. We ride for the main trail. Kane intended to flee the ranch and meet Marshal Cross on the trail, hoping the federal authorities would protect him. But Doc Scurlock and Tom O'Folliard were already in position, having ridden around the back of the ranch under the smoke and fire. Using the remaining sticks of dynamite, Doc breached the back wall of the arsenal and the main corral. The resulting dual explosions scattered the remaining guards and released Kane's best horses into a blind, terrified panic. The ranch became a scene of absolute chaos, men yelling, horses whinnying, and gunpowder smoke choking the air. Billy and Charlie, seeing the confusion below, abandoned the peak and galloped down the steep slopes, cutting off Kane's last viable escape route. "He's cornered!" Tom yelled to Doc as they positioned themselves at the front gate, guns drawn, facing the main house. Sheriff Kane and his 4 remaining gunmen, unable to escape and with their horses gone, poured out of the stone house, firing wildly. The confrontation was an intense, brutal exchange of gunfire at close range. The sheer firepower of the gang, concentrated and precise, quickly overwhelmed the desperate defense. 2 of Kane's men went down, and a third, wounded and terrified, threw down his rifle and fled into the scrub. Billy, seeing his chance, charged through the smoke, his movements a blur. He found Sheriff Kane hiding behind a large, overturned water barrel, frantically trying to reload his 6-shooter. "Elias Kane, you killed an honest man for a dirt road. You betrayed your badge and your people." Kane scrambled to meet the challenge, but panic had destroyed his focus. He rose, aiming his pistol, but his hand shook violently. Billy's shot was a fraction faster, a single definitive crack that struck the sheriff's gun arm, sending the weapon flying. Kane collapsed, clutching his shattered elbow, his arrogance dissolving into whimpers. The fight was over. The silence that followed was heavy and final, broken only by the drip of water from the ruined tower. Doc and Tom quickly secured the remaining gunman. Billy walked over to the defeated sheriff, grabbing the man's bloody badge and throwing it into the dust. "You'll face a judge, Kane, but not the one you bought. You'll face the town you stole from." They used the document box, now containing the critical evidence of the rail consortium's corruption, and strapped it to the sheriff's chest, a public declaration of his crimes. The gang worked quickly, leaving the ranch a ruined testament to the fight. They secured the wounded men and left them tied up with a note to the townsfolk of Fort Redemption: "Justice rides fast." As the sun began its descent, turning the western sky into a fiery canvas of red and gold, Billy returned to the outskirts of Fort Redemption. He found Ilara Vance waiting, tears finally streaming down her face, not of sorrow, but of profound relief. "It is done, Ilara. We brought the house down. Kane and the evidence are waiting for the people to find them. Your father's memory is clean. You saved us, Mr. Bonney. You are a legend. I'm just a man with a code, ma'am. Now you hold the truth. Use it." With a final shared look of understanding, Billy turned his horse and rode back to his companions. The job was done, and the time had come to vanish. The aftermath of the Battle of Iron Cross Ranch unfolded exactly as Billy intended. When the sun fully rose, the townsfolk, having heard the echoes of the distant battle, found the tied-up wounded Sheriff Kane and the incriminating documents strapped to his chest. Led by Ilara Vance, they took possession of the evidence and secured the disgraced sheriff, deciding to wait for the federal marshal to arrive and confirm the legitimacy of their actions. On the third day after the reckoning, Federal Marshal Jedediah Cross finally rode into Fort Redemption, expecting to find a lawless territory ripe for his takeover. Instead, he found a town restored, its citizens orderly, defiant, and holding a corrupt sheriff and his signed confession. Marshal Cross, a proud man on the Rail Consortium's payroll, was furious. His easy mission had been ruined. The evidence was undeniable, and the local sentiment was unanimously against Kane. He was forced to take the sheriff and the surviving gunman into custody, escorting them towards Santa Fe for an official trial. The marshal's one remaining goal was the capture of William H. Bonney. He sent riders scouring the Badlands, determined to catch the outlaw who had dismantled his patron's entire scheme. Meanwhile, Billy and his gang had scattered, each riding in a different direction, dissolving into the vast, empty canvas of the territory. Doc Scurlock headed south toward the Mexican border. Tom O'Folliard and Charlie Baudra rode north toward the Pecos River. Billy and Jose Chavez y Chavez moved west, deep into the most unforgiving, waterless terrain, a land where only native knowledge could guide a man. "You did not need to ride this far, Capitan," Jose said as they stopped at a high ridge, watching the dust trails of the frustrated marshal's men far below. "They will never find us here." "They won't, Jose. But I need to feel the wind on my face for a while, need to feel the miles beneath my boots." Billy looked back, not at the town, but at the sprawling, broken territory. He had come, he had seen the injustice, and he had corrected it, not as a lawman, but as an avenging angel of the frontier code. He had not taken money, only the satisfaction of seeing the powerful brought low and the meek given back their dignity. The stories began immediately. Fort Redemption was renamed Justice Gap. The townsfolk said the kid didn't ride a horse. He was carried on a dust devil. They said his bullet didn't just break Kane's arm, it broke the spell of fear that held the town hostage. The men who hunted him were chasing smoke. Marshal Cross never caught him. He would spend the rest of his career pursuing rumors, chasing ghost riders across the vast, mocking landscape. Every time a rustler was punished, or a corrupt local official was found tied up and humiliated, the blame, or credit, was immediately given to the unseen kid. Billy the Kid rode out of the known world and into the legend. He remained in the territory, but he was no longer a visible target. He became the whisper in the saloon, the shadow that crossed the moon, the protector who stood watch over the common man's claim. He became an enduring, powerful myth, a terrifying symbol of retribution in a land that rarely saw justice. As he and Jose rode deeper into the endless, silent expanse of the desert, his figure shrank until he was nothing more than a fleeting form against the monumental sky, a true ghost in the desert, forever free, forever hunting, forever a legend.